Hi, this is Scott, and welcome to GreatScott Knitting Dyes with Yarn, Episode 1. Today I am dyeing a couple of 100-gram skeins of fingering weight yarn that is 75% superwash merino wool and 25% nylon. I'll be dyeing it with Kool-Aid packets and a little bit of food coloring. My plan for the first skein is to leave it in a loosely twisted hank, then dye it in 3 consecutive colors. First, I will dye it in the mixed berry blue, then retwist the hank and dye it in a half packet of cherry red, then retwist once more and dye it in the grape purple. I have prepared the dye bath with 2 packets of mixed berry blue and about 4 drops of blue food color. The dye pot has been heated to a slow simmer, and the skein has been loosely twisted and is ready to go into the dye pot dry. The great thing about dyeing animal fibers like wool with Kool-Aid is that the packets already have enough citric acid needed to set the dye in the fiber. With the skein of yarn fully submerged in the hot dye pot, I will cover it and allow it to absorb the dye. I will check on it periodically to adjust the heat if needed and see if the dye has been fully absorbed. After about 40 minutes, the dye pot is almost completely cleared. I have turned off the heat and will let it cool down. Once it is cool, I will remove the skein of yarn and untwist it to make sure it is completely cool. I have added a half packet of cherry red Kool-Aid to the dye pot water. This will raise the acidity of the pot a little. I have retwisted the skein of yarn. I tried to expose some of the undyed fiber. I have placed the skein in the dye pot. As you can see, the fiber is already absorbing the red color. This is due in part to the higher level of acidity in the water and in the skein of yarn. I am going to cover it and let it simmer for about 30 minutes. Okay, after about 30 minutes, you can see that the dye has cleared from the pot. After it has cooled a bit, I will remove the skein, untwist it to cool fully, and then retwist it for the next color. The skein is already looking very interesting. I've retwisted it to expose some undyed fibers. I have prepared the dye pot by adding a full packet of grape Kool-Aid and about 4 drops of blue food coloring. Grape Kool-Aid can sometimes look a bit grayish, so I wanted to deepen the color a bit. The acidity of the dye pot is probably high, so I expect the dye to absorb quickly. I'm going to cover it and let it simmer about 20 minutes, and then check if the dye pot has cleared. After 20 minutes, the pot has mostly cleared of the dye. I've turned off the heat and will let it cool down completely. Any residual dye should be absorbed. I have untwisted the cooled skein. I love how it looks. I will now gently rinse the skein with some lukewarm water and a bit of clear dish soap. This will wash out any flavors and acid that remains in the fiber. Once it has been fully rinsed, I will hang it to dry. Now with the second skein of yarn, I'm going to speckle dye it. I will again use packets of Kool-Aid to sprinkle the color on the fiber. I'm using a half a packet of cherry red, a full packet of grape purple, and some homemade blue sugar. I prepared the skein of yarn by soaking it in cool water with a tablespoon of vinegar for about 30 minutes. I added the vinegar for acid because I am using the blue sugar, which has no acid of its own. I also put plastic wrap down on my work surface. I've spread the skein out to expose as many fibers as possible. I'm applying the powdered Kool-Aid and colored sugar with my fingers. I will turn the skein over and repeat the process of sprinkling so that I can get as uniform a coverage as possible. I have finished speckling the skein of yarn. I did have to turn it a couple of times to get the good general coverage. The plastic wrap which I put down can now be used to wrap the skein up. This will help keep the dye particles from spreading too much on other parts of the yarn and provide a good packet for steaming in the microwave. I have almost completed wrapping the skein in the plastic wrap. I will need to heat the fiber to help set the dye. I could do this by putting it in a steamer pot on the stove, but I don't have one. So I'm going to put it in a microwave-safe dish and heat it in the microwave for 4 minutes. I will use 2 intervals of 2 minutes each, checking between them to make sure that the fiber remains damp and that the skein hasn't scorched. After letting the bundle completely cool, I'm unwrapping it so that I can inspect the skein and then rinse it. This looks really cool. However, I am a bit sad that the blue sugar didn't survive or leave much color behind. That's okay, because the cherry and grape Kool-Aid are really nice. I am again rinsing the skein to remove the residual flavor and acid from the fiber. I will also use a little clear dish soap. Once it is fully rinsed, I will hang it to dry. Now that the skeins are fully dried, I've spread them out to check the color balance and saturation. The one on the left, which was twist dyed, still has a little lightly dyed sections, but overall the colors are lovely. The speckled dyed skein on the right appears in the picture to be dominated by the cherry red color, but off camera it displays a nice balance of purple and red. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this review of my first yarn dyeing project. I am really proud of how they turned out and found the process to be a lot of fun. I owe a lot of this success to Rebecca Brown of the Chem Knits Tutorials YouTube channel. Her tutorials are very engaging and make the process of hand dyeing yarn very accessible. I have purchased more undyed yarn and will be experimenting with different techniques in the future. I plan on filming or recapping my journey and sharing it on the GreatScott Knitting channel. So stay tuned and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.